players are we avoiding in drafts? Bust 2.0 up next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5 on Thursday, March 7th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and here we go. Bust 2.0. Scott, we'll go back and forth. You are up first.
Gonna go with Tyler Glasnow. Might be kind of obvious, but I've had a revelation since Bust 1.0, where at the time I thought, yeah, I'm okay taking Glasnow as my number one. I understand there's durability questions there. He's never gone more than 120 innings in a major league season before. But in this globby world we're living in at starting pitcher, where there are so few reliable ratio standouts after you get past a certain point. Well, Glasnow is clearly that. Pitch for pitch, he might be the most dominant pitcher after Spencer Strider. So, even if it only ends up being 120 innings, 20 starts, the impact will be so big that I can live with it in this environment. But I find when the time comes to pick, I really don't have the stomach for it. And, part of it is that thought, okay, if it is 120 innings, like his career high, then maybe I could live with it. But what if it's 60 innings? What if it's 20? Like, there's no guarantee he's going to match 120 just because he did it last year. And I think for the cost of a top 10 pitcher, I could do better.
Hey, you know what? I'm going to go with the top 10 pitcher as well here, Scott. Zac Gallen, the ADP is 37. He's the 7th starting pitcher off the board. 2 years in a row now, I've labeled Zac Gallen as a bust, and we all know how that turned out last year. I'm worried about a few things here. First, the innings, and last year, Gallen threw 243 and 2/3 innings between the regular season and the postseason combined. That is unheard of in today's game, so I worry that there could be a hangover effect heading into 2024. Zac Gallen doesn't get as many whiffs as other aces, 11.2% swinging strike rate, ranked 27th among qualified starting pitchers, and he allows a good amount of hard contact, 91.5 average exit velocity against. That ranks in the 3rd percentile. So I just see a scenario where Gallen pitches to a high 3s ERA, a 120 whip, right around a strikeout per inning, and doesn't come close to living up to this top 10 starting pitcher value. Scott, back to you. Bust 2.0.
Cedric Mullins. I just feel like the Orioles have kind of outgrown him with this big surge in offensive talent. So much more still to come. I worry he's going to get pushed out here because back-to-back. So he had obviously the breakout 30 homer 30 season in 2021. Since then, back-to-back seasons with only a 721 OPS. And last year, he went from the leadoff hitter to dropping way down the lineup. Mullins started only 39 of the Orioles' final 47 games. That was after he was back from the groin injury. He wasn't quite playing every day anymore. And they got Colton Cowser knocking on the door, having a big spring. How long are they going to be able to hold him off? Does Mullins present an opportunity to let him in? Mullins does offer defensive value at a premium position, but you could have said the same for Jorge Mateo, and it seems like the Orioles have outgrown him, obviously. I worry Mullins is going to be the next one that happens to.
Next up for me is Luis Robert. The ADP is 37.8 as the 11th outfielder off the board. Finally stayed healthy last year and broke out in a big way. Hit 264, 38 homers, 20 steals. But there are concerns. Really, really bad plate discipline. It hasn't affected Luis Robert yet, but I think it puts a cap on the batting average upside for him. And despite hitting 38 home runs, that came with only 170 runs plus RBI because the White Sox are so bad. And they're going to be really, really bad again here in 2024. The last concern is the health. So last year was the first time we saw Luis Robert play more than 100 games in a major league season. And he also ended the season on the IL with a sprained MCL in his left knee. So I think that kind of goes under the radar because it happened so late in the season. I get why he goes where he does, power and speed. I do think there are significant downside risks for a player going here in the 3rd or 4th round of drafts. Scott, back to you for another bust.
Michael King. Somebody has to make the downside case. He's being talked up as a sleeper, as a breakout. He's being drafted as like a top 40 starting pitcher. So it's at a point where you really need him to perform. And I don't think that's a slam dunk. Yes, he had a 188 ERA, 11.3 K per nine, and an 8-start trial for the Yankees late last year. Only 2 of those 8 starts did he go the length we would want to see from a starting pitcher. They were on the shorter side. And for having 11.3 K per nine, he had a swinging strike rate of 9.7%. That's terrible. How do you get 11.3 K per nine doing that? I don't know. So it's not a slam dunk he's going to continue to perform like that. And even worse, Michael King seems to me like one of those pitchers who you really have to expect him to go on the IL at some point, because he suffered an injury in the Yankees bullpen, a fractured elbow. This was a pitching related injury. It wasn't like he got hit by a line drive. It was the bones of his body literally breaking under the torque of his pitching motion. And I don't know how you're supposed to take on volume if that's how your physiology, how your body's responding to it. So yeah, Michael King, there's more downside there than is being given credit for.
The last name that I'll mention is Esteury Ruiz, and if you want to know why he's on Bust 2.0, then you can listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the Audacy app, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye!